All right. Yeah, so as Dee Dee mentioned, yeah, my name is Scott Uselis. I'm the data manager in the Office of Career and Technical Education here at KDE. And today we're going to talk a little bit about proper use of CTE work-based learning course codes, and also delve into a little bit of maybe what are some other work-based learning opportunities that maybe you weren't aware of that don't necessarily have a course code. But the main focus today is going to be on those types of work-based learning opportunities that do have course codes or that we track by pathways. So we go ahead and get started. So what is work-based learning? How does it differ from other types of learning? So CTE work-based learning is an effective teaching approach used to engage students in real-life occupational experiences. So it's kind of that crossover between what students are learning in the classroom and how they apply it at the workplace. So it incorporates structured work-based learning activities into the curriculum, allowing a student to apply knowledge and skills and connect those experiences in the workplace. Work-based learning provides students with the opportunity to engage and interact with employers while learning to demonstrate essential employability and technical skills necessary for today's workforce. So that comes in many ways, shapes, and forms. The ones you're probably most familiar with are co-op and internship and apprenticeship. We're certainly going to go over those, but I felt I'd be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to go over a few of the other work-based learning opportunities that are out there for students that maybe you weren't as aware of. So I'm going to take a moment to go over those real quickly. So the first type of learning is service learning, which is learning linked with needs in the community. There's a service learning activity that would take place as part of this type of experience. And example I can give of this, recently we had one of our area technology centers, which are our state operated CTE centers, participate in building, if you're familiar with tiny homes, like very efficient home options. This particular district, there was a need in the community for affordable housing, and the students actually built tiny homes that people are living in around the state, specifically in this school. So that's really cool. It ties, the service needs of the community with the school and the classroom. So service learning. Then you have mentoring, a partnership between employer and students that helps students become aware of career opportunities in a one-to-one or a small group relationship. So we all have heard of a mentor, we probably have mentors. This is more of a one-on-one or a small group relationship where students are very interested maybe in a particular type of career, and there's actually someone from the community that comes in not only to help them academically, but also personally at some points when students, struggle either academically or in their life, they have someone that they can lean on. So kind of a mentorship activity. We have job shadowing next. Students spend time with an individual in a chosen occupation to show how that individual spends his or her workday. We're all probably pretty familiar with job shadowing, but didn't know if you all knew that that is an official work-based learning opportunity for students. Usually going to be a very short-term experience where the student or students will visit the business person on site at their workplace, follow them around, see how they do on a day-to-day basis, what they do on a day-to-day basis. We have entrepreneurship, which is basically student-developed entrepreneurship projects. It's probably not what you're thinking, like a student not necessarily starting a business, but it could be more so of a project or a short-term entrepreneurship project to get their feet wet and to prepare them if that's something that they're interested in, once they leave high school, how to be an entrepreneur. So there are experiences around entrepreneurship. One that you may be familiar with in some of your schools is school-based enterprise, which is a simulated or actual business conducted within the school. So some examples you may know of, banks, IT help desk, school stores, greenhouses, etc. So you may be familiar, some schools have a branch bank, actually of a bank in the community in the school that students can have small loans out, very small loans, and learn how the banking process works. desk services, school stores, you know, where usually that's, you know, business pathways students that start a store, sell things with the school logo on it and so on. And then greenhouses, you know, where maybe an ag program will have plant sales, those sorts of things throughout the year. So did want to take a minute. I know that's not necessarily connected to CTE course codes, but I did want to provide the whole context. Those are some ones maybe you're not as familiar with. But the last three on the list, internship, co-op, and apprenticeship, we're really going to dive deep into those today and go over, you know, what's involved. When should you use an internship course code? When should you use a co-op course code or not? And there are times when it's not appropriate to use. So we will dive into those pretty deeply. So like I said, our focus today, although CTE work-based learning comes in many forms, we're going to concentrate on those work-based learning experiences that are tracked by course code. The two types of experience that are tracked by code, actual course codes, 6-digit course codes, are internship and co-op. I did want to also make note that we do have KDE approved registered apprenticeship programs. However, they're not necessarily monitored by course code. Those are our Tech Ready Apprentices for Careers in Kentucky pathways, or track pathways, are certainly, pardon the pun, they're definitely tracked, but they're not tracked by course code. Those are basically tracked in the Technical Education Database System, or TEDS, which you may be familiar with TEDS. But the two we're really going to dive in deep are co-op and internship. So let's look at CTE internship. So internship is a type of work-based learning experience for high school students who've completed extensive school-based preparation relating to an identified area of career and academic interest in the individual learning plan. So connected to the student ILP. They're usually one-time experiences which should lead to course credit and or pay. And we're going to get into the pay part of that in a few slides, but just realize that internships are usually a one-time experience. It's not something you would do on an ongoing basis year over year. This is usually something that's fairly short-term, but can be a little bit long-term. The key there, though, is there should be course credit and or pay. So it could come with pay, it may not come with pay, and we're going to go over why that is and what kind of guides that. So short-term versus long-term internship. As it states, short-term internship is on a very short-term basis, may vary from 1 day to 1 month, contingent upon a student's objective, and if an employer-employee relationship has not been established. That's a very important piece of this, the employer-employee relationship. And there are very specific rules around when that does exist. That comes from the labor cabinet. We're going to go over that shortly. Not going to spend a ton of time on it, but we will go over what the employer-employee relationship entails. And then you have a long-term internship, maybe established for 1 semester or 1 year with an established employer-employee relationship. So the key there, the one that would have a course code attached to it, would be a long-term internship, if an internship is indeed what they're doing. The key there, though, is that an employer-employee relationship would have to be established. So let's go over kind of what that means. So real quick, the 6 criteria, this is what makes an employer-employee relationship officially. So the 6 criteria related to this are: 1, the it includes actual operation of the facilities of the employer, is like that which would be given in a vocational or a CTE school. Number 2, the training is for the benefit of the trainees or students. Number 3, the trainees or students do not displace regular employees, but work under their close supervision. Number 4, the employer who provides the training derives no immediate advantage from the activities of the students or trainees, and on occasion, his operation may be actually impeded. Number 5, the trainees or students are not necessarily entitled to a job at the conclusion of the training period, so they're not guaranteed employment. And number 6, the employer and the trainees or students understand that the trainees or students are not entitled to wages for the time spent in training. So here's how this works through the lens of the employer-employee relationship. So if all 6 of those criteria do apply to the work-based learning experience that the student is going through, then an employee-employee relationship does not exist. So if all those are true, An employer-employee relationship does not exist, and a long-term internship would not be possible. Okay, so if all those are true, basically what you're looking at is a short-term internship. You would be ineligible for a long-term internship, which means you would really be ineligible for a course code. So finally, if any of the 6 criteria do not apply, so if any of those 6 are not true, then an employer-employee relationship does exist. That's the creation of the relationship. And then at that point, that does trigger wage and child labor laws that would apply to the experience, and a long-term internship is possible. So that slide should help you understand when a long-term internship is possible, and that would trigger, again, wage, child, but that is when you would use the CTE internship course code specific to the program area that is related. So whether that be agriculture, business, family consumer science, information technology, whatever the case may be, you would be eligible to use the internship course code if that relationship exists, they're being paid. So let's talk a little bit about co-op. This is a little bit of a next level up from internship, a little more rigorous to qualify for. So cooperative education is a paid educational program, and that's the key. Co-op must be paid. You cannot have an unpaid co-op. That's impossible. You can't do it. If it is that, then it's not a co-op, and you should not be creating that course code in the first place. So it's an educational program consisting of in-school instruction combined with program-related on-the-job work experience in a business or industrial establishment. These are planned experiences supervised by the school and the employer to ensure that each phase contributes to the student's individual learning plan and career pathway. Okay, so we're going to go a little bit deeper. You know, what does that mean in practicality? But first, we kind of talked about this already, but how do CTE internship and co-op differ? So cooperative education places a student, the length of time is usually longer. Co-op is usually at minimum going to be a semester, if not a year-long experience with the employer. Co-op education are paid, whereas internship, it's questionable. They're either paid or unpaid, depending upon whether that employee-employer relationship exists. And like I just mentioned, they may or may not be paid depending on the length of the work experience. Okay, so when do we use the CTE internship course codes? You would use these codes. So CTE specific internship course codes should only be used if 1, the internship directly relates to the career pathway in which the student is enrolled. Okay, so you wouldn't use these course codes unless the student were a pathway student of some sort. They're enrolled in that pathway. Secondly, the work-based learning experience meets the definition of either a short-term or a long-term internship. And here's a couple of examples of course codes that are real internship course codes that are found in career pathways. So 110919, the computer science internship, is valid in most, if not all, computer science or IT career pathways. The same goes for the engineering internship, 210331. This is going to be a valid course code in most, if not all, engineering career pathways that the student may be enrolled in. But that's a key. So if it's just a kid going to work and they're not necessarily in a pathway, you wouldn't use one of these course codes. And we'll go over what you would use if that's the case in a couple of slides. But that's when you would use those internship course codes. Okay, so when to use the co-op course codes, CTE co-op course codes. So CTE specific co-op course code should only be used if 1, the co-op directly relates to the career pathway in which the student is enrolled, just like internship. They would need to be enrolled in that particular career pathway or program area. Number 2, the work-based learning experience meets the definition of a co-op. And this is the really important one, and one I want to focus on. This is where we see mistakes made very often, quite often, is this third bullet point. The student is already a completer of the related pathway, 4+ credits in the career pathway, or is concurrently enrolled in an additional core related career pathway in addition to the co-op course. So basically there's 2 ways to qualify for co-op. You're either a complete, what we call a CTE completer, that's 4+ credits. So they've taken basically coursework every single year. You know, they've they have a deep understanding of that content, is when we want them out there co-oping. Or say they've only completed 2 credits, but they're also concurrently enrolled in an additional course in addition to the CTE co-op, they would be eligible. Okay. Now, you wouldn't want to send a kid out on a co-op as in freshman year. They haven't taken any coursework. They're taking a course. You want to concurrently enroll them in a co-op. That's probably not the best idea. But those are the 2 times you would be eligible to actually put a kid in those course codes: when they've completed the pathway or they're concurrently enrolled in an additional pathway course. Here's a couple of examples of co-op course codes. 030790 is agricultural education co-op. So if you have a kid in the Ag Power pathway, they've completed 4 credits in the pathway, they want to get out in the community and work, be paid, and long-term experience, that would be appropriate to use. That course code is valid, like I said, in most, if not all, ag pathways. Same goes for the business education co-op. 060107 is valid in most, if not all, business and marketing pathways. So there are very specific course codes for each experience a kid may take in terms of co-op. So it's specific to the program area is the way we call it. So ag, business, family, consumer science, IT, construction, etc., are all going to have their own co-op course codes specific to that program area. This is a question we get a lot. What I call non-CTE work-based learning. This is when a student may go to work during the school day, but to a work experience that's not connected to his or her career pathway, or the student is not enrolled in the career pathway at all. So let's say a kid is actually in a business and marketing pathway, but they're going to, that's probably a bad, just, assume that they're going to something that's not related to what they're actually learning in school. That probably wouldn't be the best match. And you would want to use the course code 901005. Is basically, it's called experience-based work, and that is for kids, again, that are either it's not a match for the career pathway, the work experience is not a match to their career pathway, or more than likely, the reason we hear this most likely is that they're not in a career pathway, which is fine. But if they're going to work someplace and it has no connection, you are ineligible to use those CTE course codes. I can't be more clear about that. You have to be in a career pathway to use the CTE learning course. So if they're not, automatically they're a 901005 experience-based work. As I already said, these are only for students participating in work experience specific to their career pathway. Let's do a couple scenarios real quick, and then we'll wrap up here in a few minutes. But I did want to go over a couple of real-world examples with you guys to kind of put a face to it. So Michaela is a 12th grade student participating in a year-long work-based learning experience at a vet clinic in her community. She's enrolled in the Animal Science Systems career pathway at her school and has accumulated 4 credits in the pathway previously. She's being paid for this experience, and it combines in-school instruction with related on-the-job work experience at the vet clinic. So the question for you all is, in what type of work-based learning experience, if any, is Michaela taking part, and which course code should be used? I'll give you a second to think about that. I know we don't have a lot of interaction on this. If you want to put it on a Go Soapbox, that's great. If you think, is she in an internship, a co-op, or really nothing at all? And we'll go ahead and go over the answer here. And the answer is that Michaela's in a co-op in an agriculture pathway. Animal Science Systems is an ag pathway. So therefore, you would use 030790 agricultural education co-op. And again, the reason she qualifies for co-op, the big important reason is she's a completer of the pathway, right? She took 4 credits within the Animal Science Systems pathway. So she is eligible to co-op when the work experience matches that pathway. And a vet clinic would certainly match that pathway. It would be absolutely appropriate to put her in a co-op course code. Scenario 2. Jaden is a 12th grade student participating in a year-long work-based learning experience at a law firm in his community. He is enrolled in the pre-law career pathway at his school and has accumulated 2 credits in the pathway previously. He is not taking any additional coursework in the pathway. He's exploring this opportunity to see if this career path truly meets his future goals. He is being paid for this experience, and it combines in-school instruction with related on-work experience at the firm. So in which type of work-based learning experience, if any, is Jaden taking part? In which course code should be used? Again, I'll give you 5 seconds or something. If you all want, I can't see the questions that are being asked, or if you're responding, but if you'd like to, please put that there. What type of experience Jaden is in.
While you're waiting, Scott, I'll tell you there's not any questions out there, but
Sure.
I will use this time as a reminder to folks. If you do have questions for Scott, log into app.gosoapbox.com and the access code is KDE data. And you can just enter in the social Q&A any questions you have.
Thank you, Dee Dee. So Jaden is in the answer here. Jaden's in a long-term internship in a law. He's in the law and public safety pathway pre-law. So you would use course code 461095 pre-law internship. So that's a specific course code for kids that are in pre-law. The reason Jaden would not qualify for co-op, he did not have the appropriate number of credits. He only had 2 credits as opposed to 4. Being a completer, he only had 2, and he was not enrolled. He was not enrolled in any concurrences. It did say he was paid, which means there's an employer-employee relationship, and that would qualify for a long-term internship, and you'd be eligible to use the appropriate course code for pre-law internship. And one final one. Elena is a 12th grade student that works at a floral shop in her community each afternoon during the school day. She is not enrolled in a career pathway at her school. She's exploring this opportunity to see if this career path truly meets her future goals. She's being paid for her job at the floral shop. In which type of work-based learning experience, if any, is Elena taking part? In which course code should be used? Just for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and give you that answer. This would not be considered, although it's great that she has that experience, it would not be considered a CTE work-based learning experience because she's not in a career pathway. If she were, that'd be different, but she's not. So therefore, you automatically will go to 901-005 experience-based work. It would automatically default to that. Okay, now that we've talked about, a little bit about the work-based learning experiences, when you would use the particular course codes, this is really, really important and something I really want to drive home, spend a minute or two on. I know we're running a little short on time, but I want to make sure we hit this. So KIA, how does KIA come into play here in terms of work-based learning course codes and KEYS eligibility? So according to KIA, to be eligible for the Kentucky Educational Excellence Scholarship, or KEYS, for a specific school year, students must have 5+ credits during that academic year. So that's a minimum, 5 or more credits in an academic year. So the question becomes, how many credits can be claimed from these work-based learning experiences? So how many credits may be counted towards KEYS eligibility for the different CTE work-based learning courses according to KIA? So this is KIA's rules for KEYS eligibility. So CTE co-op courses, this is why it's so important to code this correctly. They can count for the number of credits in the student's schedule, may count for multiple credits. In many cases, that may count up to 3 credits. It needs to match what's in the student's schedule. So if the student has gone the whole afternoon on co-op and they're officially eligible to co-op, they can claim multiple credits toward those 5. Okay, so if say they're there the whole afternoon and that's 3 credits, they would get 3 of their 5 credits covered through the CTE co-op course code. CTE internship, you can claim only up to 1 credit. So there's another big difference through the lens of KIA and KEYS eligibility. Only 1 credit for CTE internship courses toward KEYS eligibility. So, be very careful when you're scheduling people because you do not want them to fall short of the 5 credit threshold. Same goes for experience-based work, the 901-005, kind of that non-CTE work-based learning. Only up to 1 credit. So again, you'd want to be very careful that you are indeed scheduling kids into 5 credits and they'll be eligible to receive their KEYS money. We've run into cases in the past where that's not the case, and parents and kids get quite angry when they're not eligible because they didn't meet that 5 credit threshold. So if there's one slide to definitely pay attention to, this is very important. You want to make sure that they do, in fact, that they're eligible to get those 5+ credits. The eligible list of CTE co-op course codes, so those are the special ones that can count for multiple credits, is sent to KIA annually. I would be happy to share that list with you. That's not any proprietary information. I'd, again, be happy to share that with you, the ones that are eligible for multiple credits toward KEYS eligibility. And my information will be at the end of the slideshow, so I'd be happy to take your call or your email. Okay, IC and KEYS credits. Unfortunately, there's not a report in IC that will highlight KEYS credits being calculated incorrectly overall. Okay, so there is the KEYS audit report, which is a very good report. It's effective to run after courses have been posted to the transcript, however, and there are some limitations. It does allow 901-005, that experience-based work, to count up to 1 credit. It will catch that error if you are trying to claim it for multiple credits. But the report will not provide an error message for other errors. So CTE internship courses counting for more than 1 credit, for example. So it's an imperfect report. But again, it will catch some, but not all of those errors. So that's, again, why you want to be extremely careful when you're figuring up credits that are eligible for KEYS. You want to make sure it reaches that 5 credit threshold. The Office of Career and Technical Education, my office, does conduct audits of credits for CTE work-based learning students during the annual consolidated monitoring process. So many of the offices around KDE travel around the state during the winter and early spring, actually visiting. It's usually 10 or more districts that we visit that are audited on an annual basis. And this is one thing we actually do look at. We do look at those CTE co-op course codes and see if they are being used correctly. And many times they're not. And that's really what prompted me to give this presentation today. I really want to make sure that we're doing a better job on my end and on your end, getting that word out there that there's very specific purpose for those course codes. Like I said, if you have questions regarding KEYS credits, please feel free to reach out to, like I said, my information will be at the end of the slideshow. And the final slide, Senate Bill 59 and work-based learning. I don't know if you all are familiar with Senate Bill 59. That was the accountability system that just passed this prior, I guess, April, just a few months back. So Senate Bill 59 of 2022 revised the state accountability system and post-secondary readiness indicators as part of that accountability system. I'm not going to navigate to this site, but they're the SB 59. One of the revised post-secondary readiness indicators states completing a required number of hours or achieving a benchmark within an apprenticeship, cooperative, or internship that is aligned with a credential or associate degree and approved by the Kentucky Board of Education after receiving input from the local Superintendent's Advisory Council, or LSAC. I just wanted to point out this is a change to the accountability system in terms of career readiness indicators. It used to only say apprenticeship, which was our track apprenticeship program. If a kid earned the track certificate, they were considered career ready. In the future, beginning next year, if a kid takes part in a co-op or internship, CTE or otherwise, actually, that will count as a career readiness indicator. The reason I don't say it counts this year, we do not have any baseline information established yet. We're working on getting that together in terms of how many hours you would have to spend, in that experience and so on. But just wanted to let you all know that is a change from the previous accountability system, the old transition readiness system, the former accountability system.
God, as you transition you said this, I think this is your last slide in your contact information.
It is.
I'm going to hit on a few. I know we don't have much time, but I'm going to hit on the question that surfaced to the top is work-based learning open to any student? I thought in the past there was some courses connected to it and economic condition required.
To answer the question, yes, it's open to any student. It's just there's very specific rules around when it can be called an official CTE work-based learning experience.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question a little bit differently than it's asked, but then we can put more information depending on you. Are the course numbers associated with CTE internship courses?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we'll try to get those added to Soapbox. We won't ask you to spout those off right at the top right now.
Yeah, I couldn't spout them off the top of my head, but I could certainly, I could provide a list. If you want to get in contact with me, email me, call me, and I can give you.
And we'll try to get those posted in the Go Soapbox. We usually try to answer the questions, so there's responses here. Yep. Can you have 1 credit of CTE internship and 1 credit from 901005? So you would have 2 credits from these courses.
Probably not concurrently. It would have to be one or the other. Now, if they're 2 separate experiences, that may be different. Like if one is connected to the pathway and one is not, if a kid had 2 jobs, it's possible, but probably not likely.
Probably something you'd want to ask about to get clarity based on your situation before you would put a student in that and potentially jeopardize their KSIS eligibility.
Exactly. And that's why always feel free to reach out or to coursecodes.education.ky.gov. I should plug that as well. Karen Davidson and myself man that email. And if you have questions about course codes in general, we're always happy to answer those.
So the last question, and I know we've gone over for those that joined us for the next session, but just bear with us a minute. When will the data extracts be updated to include these new business rules?
Yeah, we're working on that. But you mean for the key? I'm assuming they're talking about the KSIS eligibility report.
I don't know for sure. That's all it says.
Okay, if that's the case, then we are looking to improve that report.
Yeah, if there's some other report, so it is will the KSIS extract be updated to correctly pull the number of credits for CTE internship courses? So yes, we are working on that.
Yes, and on our end, but I do want to be clear that that's KIA's rule around number of credits. And what I was talking about there was rules that KIA has. But yes, on our end in Infinite Campus, yes, we're looking to improve that.
Yeah. And we do have a KIS report that we use just to kind of give people an idea if the course codes, if the schedule does meet KIS credential, like I said, KIS qualifications for the course setup and the 5 credits and so forth. So we'll be looking at that too.